Hi, good afternoon, and welcome to this voquzlabs webinar. It's great to have you all on board. My name is Rogan Morrison, and together with my colleague Andreas Knaab from CVIS, we'll be presenting this webinar today to discuss how do you manage your SAP user security on SAP Cloud applications. Just before we start this webinar, I just wanted to give you some housekeeping. We do have some questions that you can post in the chat. We will be recording this webinar as well, and so if you wanted to review this webinar, you will be receiving a link with an email for both the presentation and the recording. So let's get started, and we trust that we'll have a good set of interactions with you today. Just to give you some indication of what we do as an organization and what products we run. Just a little bit of history about the VOCUS group. Actually, 2 days ago, it was the VOCUS group's 40th birthday. So it's a real milestone in the organization. And voquzlabs, as part of the group, is specifically focused on licensing, authorizations, and compliance management add-ons for your SAP suite. We combine the best-in-class SAP user management solutions with the consulting expertise and advisory space around licenses, but also more specifically, and what we're going to talk about today, is around compliance, security, access control, and efficiency and optimization of your user management in the context of the setQ solution, specifically focused on cloud. So just a bit about the organization. As you can see there, we launched our SAMQ solution back in 2010 and have been working in the setQ solution space, which is really our authorizations and compliance solution since 2018. And we've expanded this greatly across the different areas from a regionality perspective, and have organizational offices ranging from Berlin all the way through down to Cape Town, which is where I'm sitting at the moment. So good to have you, as I said, on this webinar. So you can see just some of our global presence there. We span across the globe. And so if you're sitting in different regions and want to get in touch with us, we do have some colleagues that can help you in different areas. But now onto the webinar, and more specifically, a bit more about the product itself. So setQ, which is where we're going to focus on today, specifically looks at how you can manage your identity and authorizations across your SAP suite. We specifically want to drive a single authorization concept, and this is a really important element, especially when we talk about cloud solutions. So, but as part of the suite, we also look at the authorizations and role concept design. We cover things like web-based requests and approval workflows, and making it simpler and easier for you to, and for your users to access the system in a much more efficient way. We cover the compliance aspects of users, specifically focusing on the SOX and segregation of duties, and also the remediation of these, especially around mitigation. It's a very key topic for most IT auditors, is that people want to make sure that the mitigation of those compliances is actually taking place and is well documented. We specifically look at role optimization. One of the areas that most organizations either have is expansion. When they move to new products, they need to expand the roles that they're working on, and this is something that we can do using the setQ solution, as well as reduction. So often a number of roles have got overexpanded, and they might be in a position where there's a lot of additional roles and jobs that have been assigned to users, and we can actually reduce that down to create greater operational efficiency. And then what's really important is to make sure from an audit perspective that all the documentation around what you have in terms of your user management is well documented, it's stored, it's versioned, and the setQ solution does all of that as well. And then I think for users specifically, the most important thing is their management of their passwords. We all have to manage multiple passwords across many different systems. And so setQ really helps you to do a very user-friendly approach to password management. On top of this, authorizations management, we have linked to our SAMQ solution. And the reason why we so tightly link our setQ and SAMQ solutions is because the license elements around SAP must tie into the way in which you are assigning your users their authorizations. If you don't have that alignment correctly, your user licenses can be in a state of deficit, which means that you'll pay more for licenses. It could be that they're not aligned correctly. And this creates this bridge of connection between the setQ and SAMQ solution is really a unique bridge. No other product set out there has this. You can't do this using GRC access control and the law solution or the law license audit workbench in SAP. We really firmly believe that the solution set between SAMQ and setQ is unique in bridging this gap. So it enables users who are being assigned certain authorizations to have a check related to their license compliance and making sure that when you assign that user the relevant transaction sets, the jobs, the profiles, etc., that they don't end up being pushed into a higher license category without warning the business. So making sure you're compliant in that space. Together with these two solutions, we have an advisory capability. And that really in the authorizations and compliance space really helps organizations with things like their authorization concept redesign. We want to make sure that you have a single authorization concept, and many of the SAP application suites have their own set of authorizations, and it's not in a singular place or in a standard way, and so we can help you redesign that. We also help companies with their compliance reporting. We have a service called a compliance check, and we can help organizations to make sure that from a security perspective, their authorizations is well maintained, and that access through the authorizations components does not relate in security breaches. So we can also do an access on security. And then very important for many organizations is this transformation journey that they're on to S4HANA. And in this context, they might be not only taking on a cloud-based solution, but also taking on additional applications in the S4HANA space. And therefore, they need to understand how the change in this role migration will take place from a transformation perspective. So we run a service that specifically looks at HANA role migration, both in the initiation phase of a transformation to understand what roles need to migrate, but also at a testing phase when you're almost doing your what we in the old days called your user acceptance testing. We do a S4HANA role check to ensure that just pre-go live that all your roles have actually and your users are actually migrated correctly, and that there aren't any segregations of duties, that the users have the correct role assignment, because otherwise when you go live, there's a significant amount of pain in the go live around the fact that the roles haven't been tested and migrated correctly. I'm not going to cover all the different areas on the license side. We have a whole lot of webinars that touch on license management and advisory services that we have in there. I would encourage you strongly, if you're interested in that, have a look on our website. We have blogs in both of these areas that we talk about on SAMQ and on setQ. And we also have a number of, as I said, webinars and white papers, etc., dealing with the most recent and latest developments in both of these specific areas around authorizations, compliance, and licensing. Okay, but today in this webinar, we really want to specifically focus on cloud. And cloud is a big topic for most organizations. We can't get away from it. It's here with us to stay. And so this is really focused around how do we, using the setQ solution as an alternative to other products such as SAP GRC Access Control, how do we actually enable that to be applicable in your organization? So I think that's the most important aspect that we want to get out of this webinar, is to show you that, one, there is an alternative, and how does that alternative work? So let's have a look at some of the challenges that many organizations have in the cloud space. So first of all, one of the biggest challenges is, if you look at the landscape around SAP, you can see that many organizations have this quite disparate landscape. They've got their SAP Business Suite or S4HANA at the bottom here. You've got some on-premise solutions that may be non-SAP. You may even have a cloud-based solution that could be S/4HANA as well, plus a whole lot of new cloud-based applications from Hybris, Concur, SuccessFactors, Ariba, C4HANA, Fieldglass, and then you also have a whole lot of non-cloud-based SAP applications. And on top of that, you have real-world objects in the IoT space, robotic process automation, e-commerce, etc. And you have some user-centric applications, cell phone devices, tablets, PCs, chats, etc. So you have a whole lot of this integration occurring, and this is changing significantly. And specifically this year, it changed even more. So what were some of the new challenges that we saw coming up in this year? So first of all, additional multiple log-on devices. Why? Because many people started working remotely from home. They needed to be on the go. They needed to have, instead of having a desktop, now they were working from phones. They were working from tablets. They were working from laptops. So that's the first area that changed significantly. Thirdly, some of the other challenges is that as we've moved towards new applications on cloud, it means that the old multi-purpose application authorization concept is very difficult to maintain. It means that you have to almost have in the past you've had this separate authorization concept for each different solution or application, and that becomes very inefficient to run, and it becomes very non-cost effective. Then we also have what has the company procured? So in many organizations, we see that a company is procuring some new cloud applications, as we showed up on the top here. They've got some Concur or SuccessFactors or SAP Analytics Cloud. There's some new non-cloud applications that are coming in as well. So lots of developers are developing stuff that's non-SAP, but is still accessible through a cloud-to-cloud integration. So you still need to make sure that your users' access to those applications can be covered from a single authorization concept. And then on top of this, we also have some new non-SAP on-premise applications as well. And we'll need to look at that in the future and potential other webinars of how do we deal with non-SAP on-premise applications. How do we actually manage authorizations when you're sitting from an SAP perspective across this entire new architectural landscape? And then what are the main business drivers behind this? Well, again, you still need to maintain compliance, firstly. So you have to have an authorization solution that gives you that level of compliance across all of these new elements in this space here. Secondly, you need to reduce costs. So you need to try and drive costs down. And we'll have a look at about some of the costing elements later in the webinar on what setQ really does in comparison to GRC access control. And thirdly, you need to have this whole access thing for your users being as user-friendly as possible. Not only for the user, the team of authorizations consultants that you have. It must be user-friendly. It must be easy for them to change a role, a job, update what we call packages and functions, etc. in our setQ solution. But it must also be user-friendly to the end user. So if they need a password reset, you don't want them to have to create a ticket, for example, because they can't access one of their cloud solutions, and that takes a few hours or days to get them then back up to speed because they've forgotten their password. So these are some of the key aspects in which setQ plays a role and can meet these challenges. Okay, what are we also concerned about from a business perspective and the business use case for change? So what has changed as well in the last few months? Well, first of all, if your company has decided to purchase some new cloud-based applications and now you need to integrate this, there's one of three different scenarios you could be faced with. The first one is you don't have an SAP GRC access solution. So your company hasn't procured this, but they now have a new cloud-based application. And somehow you need to find an authorization concept that meets this specific scenario or use case, okay? You could be in a position where your company does have GRC access control, but you've got a lot of cost pressure. And this is another area that we wanted to show you from a cost-based perspective, that there is an opportunity to reduce costs here. And in using setQ, we're significantly well priced in the marketplace to help you with this. So this could also be a use case. We'll talk about the maintenance costs in a comparative way. And this could be a use case that you're in your business as a CIO or as an executive or as an authorization consultant. You want to look at opportunities where GRC access control is not meeting your requirements, or it's maybe too top heavy for what you have in your organization. And the third user case that we're going to look at is really that you could be involved in is where you're sitting with GRC access control and you now need or are forced to migrate because the maintenance change at the end of the year from 10 to 12, and you need to go into extended maintenance. And we've put a little note here. You can go and have a look at it. There is an end of stream maintenance. And for organizations that really are cost conscious, there is now a potential opportunity to change out from GRC access control, because if you're not able to do the migration and upgrade your GRC access control in this time frame, you're then going to go into extended maintenance and then customer maintenance, etc. And you can see that there are some additional fees that are charged on top of this. So what we want to do is give you an opportunity as an alternative to look at setQ and see how this can fit into any one of these three business use cases. So what would it look like from a setQ architecture if you decided to go down this road? So the first thing that we set out to do from a setQ perspective is to ensure that you have a single authorization concept across your entire IT landscape. Specifically in the SAP space, that's where it's really designed for. So we want to make sure that across all the different cloud platform elements that we're going to talk about later and show you an example on, that you can very easily connect to those new cloud applications. You can connect into your S4HANA, you can connect into different intelligent technologies, etc., and all manage this out of the new, from a new normal perspective. So multiple logon devices are covered, remote working is covered, and we do away with an old multi-application authorization concept. We go to a single authorization concept. The company still can go through the different procurement processes in this case, and really what we focus on is, again, maintaining compliance, making sure we reduce costs, and make it as user-friendly as possible. So that is really the approach that setQ has taken to make this a viable solution. Okay, what does the setQ architecture look like, and how would you get to it? So in essence, it's an SAP add-on. You can install it on Solution Manager or any ABAP system. And it comes as a centralized system. You can see here it has some additional RFC connections. It also has a web manager with an ICF link to it. And at the bottom here, you can see how we connect through what we call our cloud connector to a cloud solution. It could be Ariba, it could be Cloud Analytics, it could be SuccessFactors, it could be a whole lot of different different elements. So in terms of the cloud. In terms of the setQ central system, it comes with a structure which has projects. So you set up a very relevant project for the organization. You link in all the destination systems. This is really important because, again, we want to maintain that single authorization concept across ERP, BW, HR. In the past, these systems had their own unique authorizations concept for things like BI and HR, HCM, etc. So you'd have to redevelop the same authorization concept there again. We have an identity and role manager. These are different components inside, so we can manage relevant identities of the users and the roles that they have. We have a compliance manager to ensure that we manage all those segregations of duties and the compliance that your organization puts in place from an internal audit and a legal perspective. We also have a compliance reference manager, and then we have our setQ connectors, as I said here, for different elements, Active Directory, etc. And what we're going to look at, as I said, is the cloud connector and how we link to that. Okay, let me just click through these. Okay, so how do we break this down from a setQ perspective? Well, the first thing is that setQ is really a modular solution. And it's important to understand this because it has significant benefits from a costing perspective. When the setQ application was built, we decided to not build it as a one size fits all, because not every company needs every single element, and they don't need every single element all at the same time. So you can build build and build on the building blocks from a modular perspective as you go through your authorization structure. So let's have a look at which specific connectors we need in this case here. Sorry, one slide down. So in this case, if we wanted to start off with a very basic solution, we would use the following modules. So this would include the identity manager, we would need the role manager, we would need compliance reference manager, our cloud connector, and a web manager. So a very limited set of modules. This is important because if you are running a very small SAP Landscape and you don't have SAP GRC access control, you don't need to procure a very large system to manage a very small landscape. We have the solution in this place. Thereafter, you can then build on some additional modules as in how you grow and develop in your organization. But at the same time, you may have a very large landscape in the SAP perspective, and therefore you may want to take on some of these additional modules at the start, and we can cost those and structure those as and how you require them. So we have the role reference manager, we'll talk a little bit about those, and the extension manager, as I mentioned earlier, to extend your roles into different areas, S4HANA, etc. We can run a reduction manager beforehand to make sure that we optimize roles before you even start a process. We have our emergency manager to make sure that emergency requests related to user roles, people who go on sick leave and who go on maternity leave or take time off for various reasons can be managed. We have our mitigation manager to manage the mitigation of these compliances and the checks that come out of it. Alert manager is another one, concept manager. So we have a whole lot of these managers, recertification. I won't go through all of them here, but we build all of these so that for different size customers, there's a different set of package structures based on the actual modular solution. Okay, so if we had to look at the setQ modules required, as we spoke earlier, we would require the identity manager. What does the identity manager do? Well, it really centralizes the creation and administration and maintenance of the user profiles. You can't get away from it without having an identity in place. So all users need to have this identity, and we manage and maintain this using Identity Manager. Together with the Web Manager, we have a web interface for both the end users and the managers, the authorization managers. It's a far simpler, much more user-friendly way to access the user elements from a compliance perspective. There's a whole lot of easy-to-use tiles, and we'll show you how the Web Manager works in the context. We have the role manager to manage all the role creation and maintenance across all of the systems. So when you think about a cloud solution, we need to make sure that first of all, the user has the right role. We may also need to create a separate role in the cloud solution and then link them back to the identity manager. The compliance manager, in terms of from a reference perspective, has a whole lot of prefabricated audit queries. So these help you to ensure compliance. They're really out of the box set of audit queries so that you can just simply plug them in and make sure that you don't have to rebuild anything. So it's a very much best of breed solution. And as I said, our compliance solution covers all the segregations of duties from an audit perspective. And then most importantly, what we're talking about today is our cloud connector. So we have some different methods to access the different cloud solutions. We can use the GET, the GET, the POST or DELETE method, and we can then connect this via a web service to the cloud platform or third-party cloud systems. We also can do some connections from the identity manager to non-SAP applications, but this requires some additional coding. So again, why is this important? Because you want to create a single authorization concept centralized around identity management that comes together with a web manager for ease of use that can connect you to different cloud solutions, Ariba, whatever else. Okay. Let's have a look. I'm going to hand this over now to Andreas to have a look at this in a little bit more detail and to show us some slides on how this actually works in the setQ solution.
Hello, everybody. Andreas here from Germany. Thank you very much, Rogan, for this really good show. Give me 1 second to go to my screen. Rogan, do you see my screen now?
I don't at the moment.
Okay, you should.
Yes, we do see you. Do see your screen. Correct.
Perfect. Good. Yeah, hello everybody. I decided this morning to not to show you a live or video session of the Cloud Connector, because we want to send it afterwards of the show to you that you have a better impression. So I decided to put some marks and errors inside to give you a better understanding for everything. Okay, let's roll the dice. Cloud Connector. When we go into Cloud Connector, we first have to think about Identity Manager, like Rogan already mentioned. So this is the back end of setQ, where we have identity management. Of course, we also have a Web Manager, where we also have the identity management included. So, but we go into this one. So when I go to presentation
Andreas,
mode,
yeah, I just want
this
to give you,
screen would be much bigger then.
That's good.
Sorry for that. Okay. First, what we do, we go to Identity Manager, as you see here, and if you see this one here, you see the roles already from the SAP Analytics Cloud. I want to show you right now. And when we go inside the identities of Identity Manager, there's a lady called Anne Klug here with the full name, this one, and we click inside Anne, and all the information about Anne is here. It's Anne Klug, and if you go to Accounts, this one, you will see the accounts of Anne. And as you see here, we have the Analytics Cloud at dev02. And the next step, and this is a little bit a thing which I have to explain on everything in setQ, is the way it looks here. On the left-hand side, you have everything which is available, and on the right-hand side, everything which is selected. So, and we select the SAP Analytics Cloud. In all of the processes we see here, there's always a workflow behind. So we have to wait until everybody has finished the workflow. And then the change will go inside to the Analytics Cloud from one single place, like Rogan already mentioned. And we go to the users. Apologies for the German part, by the way, here. I'm located here in Germany. But I think it's comprehensive. And we see Anne Klug here, and you see Anne Klug at sevis.com. So Anne Klug is now inside the Analytics Cloud, but without roles. So what we do now is we go to Anne Klug, but first of all, we found out that the name is changed. Anne is not A Klug, Anne is Anne.Klug at sevis.com. So we change it, and also inside the SAP Analytics Cloud, the name is changed. Of course, there's also workflow, but there's no screenshot for this. So now we go to the roles. We have seen before the modular and the planner. Here, the job selection, the same way, select it on the left-hand side, move it to the right-hand side with a validity period. Maybe you have somebody joining and leaving departments, and you can fill in everything you want to see here. And also a small workflow afterwards. You see the two roles here. And the two roles are appearing in SAP Analytics Cloud. So you don't have to go in. This is just to give you impression. You can do everything out of setQ. Okay, also, of course, if you want to delete a role for Anne Klug, that is the same thing, also with the workflow, and you go back and the role is gone. Okay, this is the way it is centralized in your setQ, so you can all your assignments in ERP, in BI, in whatever, and also in cloud from one single place. So maybe you are interested in the health of your cloud systems, and we can of course put more in than Analytics Cloud. And we have a garage, and here the Analytics one, and we have a sunny weather here, which is no failures, and we have some clouds here inside because there was a failure. So you have the health status of your systems always visible. Let's go inside into the Cloud Analytics Cloud we've already seen. And what we did is we assigned a role to Anne. We assigned first of course the user. Those both, there are more connectors, of course, available. And on the left-hand side here, you can see the get, post, put, patch, delete methods. And this is the stuff you have to fill in to connect to whatever cloud system. It can be inside SAP like Ariba, SuccessFactors, but it can be also outside if they support get, post, etc. Okay, so it's not kind of out of the box solution. Maybe you need 1, 2, 3 days to integrate it, dependent on the system you decide to integrate, but it's very easy to do. And if you have integrated it, you can work with it. You don't need to go inside this one. You just go inside your role assignments inside the SAP, like an ERP, and you assign what you want, and all the cloud systems are maintained. Of course, we have a monitor, so you need to know what happened inside those transactions, and you have to do URL and what's happened with the start date and finish date. And if you want, you can also have details to get a better understanding what happened in each step. And I anonymized here a little bit, but you see here it's Annick Luke, and it's the details. But I think, you don't need it so often, just to give you an impression that everything is completely stored inside the system, what happened. Okay, this is the Cloud Connector. Very short, but hopefully impressive and helpful for you. And I would give back to.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Andreas. It's a very good overview there. I trust I can just share my screen again and be up and running. Just a few questions to you, Andreas. In terms of the Cloud Connector, I see that this is just for cloud analytics. Do you have it for other cloud solutions, and can you support other cloud solutions?
Yeah, of course. So, like you mentioned, the names like Ariba, SuccessFactors, and everything you need. And if maybe a new one is coming, because it's here. Many cloud solutions are coming like every month or so. It's more a feeling than an effect, but there are many of them. And if you want to have one, just tell it, and we will find out how many days it will need. 1 day, 2 days, and the system is connected. No problem.
Fantastic. And tell me, is this solution based on the SAP IDM solution, or how is it based? Give me some idea.
No, it's different. It's different. IDM is a separate solution where you can integrate whatever system, 20-year-old legacy system, stuff like that. And it's you need many of consulting days to make it up and running. This is more. It is a completely focused Cloud Connector. So with Cloud Connector, it's only new system stuff is just coming up. Of course, there are older ones like Salesforce. You can integrate them too if you want, but it's not for the legacy stuff. Of course, we can do if you want to integrate older systems or IDM or whatever, we can do it, but not with Cloud Connector. This is a separate job we do inside the projects, and we always take some days for it to integrate it. But Cloud Connector is the easy way to do it. In just a few steps, you have the connection.
Fantastic. And in terms of the workflows, is there a workflow for everything and for everywhere in the system in terms of setQ?
Yeah, of course. Workflows are everywhere. So if you want to change something, it has to be a workflow because it needs to be audit-proof. Everything needs to be documented. So there must be a workflow, and you can see everything you did until the system is running. So whatever, 20 years in the back or so, no problem.
Okay. And for those customers who may need also a role redesign, is this something that you would recommend? From an application perspective, that they can, look at redesigning all of their roles as well?
Yes and no. I think you don't need the Cloud Connector for make a role redesign. In the slides you have presented before, there was the role manager and the role reference manager and the extension manager. And if you want to change your ERP roles, for instance, or S4 or whatever, then you can have the reference model. We have 1,000 templates role available, for instance. And of course, you can take the role modules. You mentioned it. You pick the one you need, and you don't need to have everything. But not when you think about roles and cloud, it's different because the roles are already finished inside most of the cloud products I know, to be honest. There are no free roles. They are predefined, and you can always pick them or select them, and then it's okay. And with the role manager, you can create everything you want inside your ERP, inside your S4, and you have the 1,000 role templates to do it.
Fantastic. That sounds excellent. I'm sure people are interested in understanding and the quick use of how this can be done. So we've covered the setQ modules required. We've gone through the developments and shown you some examples of how quickly and easy does this work, the fact that we have a single authorization concept. So the next question from a business perspective is, how do you get there? So what is the roadmap to achieving something like this? So first of all, within our solution and our process that we take from a delivery perspective, we have four phases really to take you live if you decide to go for a setQ solution. The first is to set up a definition and preparation where we install the setQ solution on suite. We then do some analysis. We analyze what is the current status of your existing authorization concepts. Is there something that we can take across? And we have processes for doing a transfer of the authorization concept, or we can build a new authorization concept for you. If it's the case of the latter, creating a new authorization concept, we then start off with a set of specific activities. So we make sure that all the SOD compliant roles and jobs are in place. We specify all the boundary conditions. We make sure that there's a standardized user process in place and that the documentation of the new authorization concept is firmly embedded in the organization. And then finally, we actually go live. And the go live set of activities is normally we go through is testing and training, and then it's go live support for the new authorizations and for their reference users. So it's really a quick set of phases in comparative to the GRC access control. The solution that from a setQ implementation perspective is very easy and quick to implement. Let's have a look at just an example. setQ, just from a cloud-based perspective, if you're going to engage with us, what would a timeline look like? And here we've got an example with also the man days required from our side in terms of engaging with you. You can see that we'd start with the normal project organization and kickoff, do some project planning, set up the relevant technical elements, and then go through an installation and configuration steps, analyze the trace data to make sure that the authorization concept is ready, make sure you have all the work packages in place, construction of the roles, cleaning of the roles, and really testing and go live takes place in those last two phases as well. So it's a very quick, efficient way from a working perspective, and it can be done in a matter of quick months. I think most importantly for a lot of organizations, they're saying, but yeah, what's it going to cost us? So what we've put together in the next slide is just really a costing comparison to give you some ideas. The setQ solution is a very effective solution in managing this. And the license model of how we work to get to a costing is really important. Why? Because we don't take all of the users across every system. We actually go and do a check and a trace to check which users belong or have the same identity and that they're only counted once, even though they may be in multiple systems. From a pricing perspective, that's important, so we don't double count or do double dipping, as they call it, from a licensing perspective. We also make sure that we exclude certain users. So there's a list underneath here. You can see DDIC and MDM, SADM, etc., and some license types as well here. We also make sure, I think this is also something that is, that's quite unique if we're going to take over from an existing authorization concept, that we eliminate all the invalid users. So we run a check to make sure that all invalid users have now been deleted out of the system and that their roles are not going to be transferred across, or we're not going to create a set of authorization concept on invalid users. It doesn't make sense, and it adds additional weight to and time to an implementation of this nature. So we really try to streamline as much as possible the implementation process by having a very lean and effective license model. Let's just have a look at some examples. So what would it cost you as an organization if we did some comparisons for, if you took 100 users to 10,000 users with some values in between. So some at 1,000, some at 2,500, 5,000, and 10,000. So here on the left-hand side, you can see a graphical representation that shows you in the blue elements the SAP GRC access list price, And just remember, in this comparison, this is a list price. Of course, there can be discounts applied, and I'm sure SAP does apply discounts. But if you took it at a list priced value and you did a straightforward apples to apples comparison between SAP GRC Access Control for these numbers of users and setQ, this is the values. So you can see that the setQ list price is significantly lower, and even as the GRC list price increases, because they're sold in batches, as that list price increases, the GRC, the setQ price stays almost very consistent at a much lower level. From a costing perspective, why is this important? Well, because it also has a ramification and implication on your maintenance costs. So you need to be aware that as your list price goes up, you're going to pay additional maintenance costs as well. And overall, when you look at the total cost of that, then in a combination of both your license cost and your maintenance cost combined, you can see that the price indication is significantly different. So we would like to, this is something that we really see as an opportunity for organizations to relook at those three existing business models. If you don't have a GRC access control solution, as I mentioned earlier, and you're running all of your authorizations out of basis, there is an opportunity for you to come and have a look at us, come and have a chat to us. We would welcome to do a cost comparison for you. If you are running a GRC access control solution and you want to say, well, this is costing me a lot of money in maintenance, can you do a comparison of what your solution with similar functionality would give me? Or if you just want additional demo, or if you're in the position where you are thinking about migrating and spending a lot of money migrating from GRC Access Control 10 or 10.1 to 12, and you want an alternative that's not going to cost you that much, both in terms of license fees and in terms of ongoing maintenance fees, then setQ is definitely something that we strongly advise you have a look at. And then certainly, as I said here, take some action on costs and make sure you still remain compliant. And if you really want to get hold of us, we have some details there below. You can get hold of us on our website or contact us via these email addresses over here. So as I mentioned earlier, if you would like to get a cost comparison based on what your current company's authorization concepts are and setQ, please get in touch with us. We would welcome that. If you'd like to get a detailed demo, specifically around some of the other modules that we have, and we have a whole lot, or if you just want a quotation to do a comparison for where you are at the moment, if you have no GRC in place, then please get in touch with us. We'd really welcome that from yourselves. I would like to ask, are there any questions? I'm going to just quickly check the question box over here. We do have a question here. We have GRC and paying fees to SAP. Let me just try and scroll down a little bit here. I'm not sure that's a question. I don't know if that is something you want to look at. Again, if you have GRC access control and you want to look at the cost comparative, then definitely we would welcome that. You're welcome to do that. It would mean from a license change. Let me just get this question box out here. Sorry, I need to make it a bit bigger. Put it out there.
I think
let me just read the question here quickly.
For license fees.
This is really
wrong with the webinar, because you only see the half of the line, so you have.
Okay, I can see. I pulled it out now, so I can see that. So really, from a license fee perspective, as I said earlier, we do help organizations to manage license exchanges and license compliance as well. So definitely. From a costing comparison, I think it would really be important if I was sitting, and I mean, if I was sitting in the person's shoes of an authorizations consultant or somebody, I would at least want to know that one, there's an alternative, and two, what the costing would be on that alternative. And then you can start having a license discussion. It's important and to get that comparative, to say, okay, this is what we are paying, this is what setQ would cost us. Now we can have a detailed license discussion, and that we can also help you with. We help lots of companies in doing license exchanges. It depends on where you are in your process, and what triggers you have available, etc. So definitely, if you want to eliminate some costs within your organization, then please reach out to us. Yes, the recording is being, the webinar is recorded, and if you need additional content, again, I would strongly suggest reach out to us. We can certainly get in touch with you from a content perspective. Okay. Are there any other questions that you may have out there that you want to ask us, specifically related to cloud solutions and how you would connect them? Maybe there's some cloud-based questions out there. There was a hand raised by Paul. You want to ask a question? I can unmute you, Paul. I don't know if I can. Let me check.
Hi guys, sorry,
Hey,
I wasn't able to type the message.
No problem.
You mentioned earlier that it's got RFC connection possibilities, but to my understanding, RFCs are being phased out by SAP. How would you replace that support, or is there a need for RFC going forward?
Andreas, do you want to?
I think you need to check technically. So this is pretty new for me, but we will find out for you and give you feedback, Paul. What our development was.
It might be my misunderstanding. It's something I heard last week, so okay. I may be wrong.
So it's pretty new.
Yeah,
we will check for you. No problem.
I was going to say, definitely, Paul. It's pretty new to me. I mean, I know that from having worked in the SAP environment for a number of years, Solution Manager is all connected via RFCs. So to move away from that, maybe there is something that they're moving away from, but it would be a very big step for many organizations to move away from. But maybe there is an opportunity to move to something else. We don't know about it, but we will certainly keep our ears to the ground and make sure that we understand. And if we do need to change, then the setQ solution will change with it, I'm sure.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions related? Yep. Request to do a specific demo with pleasure. Please reach out to us. We can definitely do an analysis from a business case perspective. We do a lot of work with organizations who are looking to create cost savings, and they've got specific solutions that they want to then transfer out of. So as I say, we deal with the license side, and we can definitely look at your specific case from a business case perspective. Okay. Anybody else specifically have questions around cloud-based solutions and what they're struggling with? Maybe there's something there. Again, I'm not sure. Paul, let me unmute you there again, and you can fire away. Paul, you're on self-mute if you want to unmute yourself. I'm not sure if you want to type another question. I see it comes through.
No, I'm good. Sorry, that was a mistake. Fat fingers.
Okay. All right. 100%. Good stuff. Anybody else? We've got about 10 minutes left, and I'm not sure if anybody wants to look at any. I mean, we can certainly touch on some of the other modules that setQ does in the deck if somebody wants to look at a specific module. As I said, if you want to get a short overview, yeah, we can certainly. We have teams globally that can help you with a detailed analysis from a business case perspective, and we'll pass this on to our team in that specific region. Okay. Right, well, if there's no other further questions, what I'd like to do is, first of all, thank you very much for attending today's webinar. We really want to thank you. And as I said at the beginning, we will have this webinar sent out to all of those who've attended. If you have any questions or if you have any additional information that you require, please reach out to us. Our website is at the bottom there. And that's all from myself and Andreas. I wish you a very fantastic rest of your day and your evening, wherever you are around the world. I'm reminding everybody, stay safe and healthy, and keep well. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.